Gerald, the first I did this all backwards, so the first 5 minutes of this is going to be me waiting for Tom to get on, and I didn't realize I could have set up the. Anyway, I wanted to put like the broadcast thing the little tag that you put on the broadcast, so I was writing that, and I did it by going live. I couldn't figure out how to go back. Anyway, you'll figure it out. Thank you, Gerald. You're the best. Thanks for putting up with me and LakerTom, whom I'm hoping will be on the show. Let's see here. Let's share this on the social medias. All right. It's for those of you watching. Feel free to throw something in the chat. I'm just waiting for LakerTom to get on. So I'm just hanging out. I have my camera up there. Let's see how it feels down here. Better. All right. Hello, everyone. Hanging out, waiting for Tom. So if you have any questions or want to talk about anything, throw it in the chat. I'm happy to wrap, and we'll figure it out as we go. This is a little bit of an impromptu show, if you can't tell. So thanks for being awesome. Okay. Well, anyhow, for those of you watching, until Tom gets here, I'll pontificate for a bit. We're going to adjust my lighting slightly. There we go. Lighting is important. Lighting is very important. I try to have a cool shot going on at the back when I'm here. So according to the world of YouTube, there are roughly 6 of us all hanging out right now. And so I'd like to, thank you all for hanging out with me on a Saturday morning while we wait for Tom to get here. In fact, let me text Tom and see where he's at. Oh, there he is. Boom. Morning, LP. I already started the show because I didn't know what I was doing.
No problem.
I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm getting the hang of this surely but slowly. I don't know. There's not much. Since this is a mostly unscheduled event, I don't know how many chat participants we'll have, but that's all right. I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if anybody has a question for us. In general, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Jamie. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. You know, all things considered, pretty good. Busy day, but we'll do a quick one here, and maybe Jill just uses it for a future show or whatever. I wanted to ask you. I mean, you've been posting a lot of articles on Lakerholics.com,
Mhm.
and you are obviously all in on JJ Redick. I am not all in on JJ Redick. How would you go about convincing a doubter like myself? Or would you just not worried about it and just say, well, whatever you believe, bro?
Well, no, I think that, listen, it's understandable that it's very understandable that having experience as a coach has something to do with how well you do the job. And the way I look at it is that I really do think that after Phil Jackson, this stretch of hiring coaches that we've done, it's always such a crapshoot, because once you get rid of the coach that you've got, well, most of the good coaches already have jobs, and so you're left with what happens to be at the market right at that point in time. Yeah. And it's not like you can go and do a nationwide search, because there's certain qualities that you've got to have, or the players just aren't going to accept the guy that you hire as a coach.
Yeah.
So the Lakers are always forced to basically make a choice of who to go after. And unlike the way that they've always approached it with players, understanding that a superstar player is worth so much more than a role player, that this is a league where superstars win. The other thing you got to look at too is that this is also a league where your whole reputation as a franchise is based upon two great coaches that you had, two coaches that were generational coaches. The Warriors, Steve Kerr, it's a generational coach.
Spurs,
the Spurs with you go down the line and you understand that. And it's always this dichotomy that drives you crazy about the Lakers ownership and front office, which is, yeah, we'll do anything for a player, where you're really restricted as to what you can do. But in areas like the coach, where you can pay whatever you want to hire the biggest and the best, we always seem to want to go the cheap route, and listen, the truth is you get what you pay for most of the time. Sometimes you get a bargain and you get somebody new and young. So that's the thing. Is I think first and foremost, we need to look for the right coach.
Yeah.
And we may have an opportunity in front of us. No, we won't know until it actually happens, but we may have an opportunity. Okay. Now, the second thing is, when I look at the experience situation, I don't think it's important, because most of the things that everybody's complaining about, which is calling the right timeouts and making the right substitutions and making the right challenges and so forth. Good head coaches, they have guys, they have assistants who are in charge of each one of those things, so that they don't have to worry about that. They can instead be looking at the big picture. And these aren't the reasons why, the guys are going to succeed in coach. There's a huge difference between being the head coach and the decisions you make and how you sell them to the players and to the media than being an assistant coach. I mean, it's totally different job. It is a totally, totally different job. And I've done both of those jobs, not, just at minor amateur levels, but it's really important that you have somebody. And you look at the Lakers. The Lakers, there's a post recently where they're talking about the Lakers brain trust. The Lakers brain trust is Rob, Joey, his other brother,
Jesse,
and Kurt, and the two superstars.
I don't even know if I would include them in the brain trust. I think that
brain trust, we need somebody with a vision, because Rob is a guy who's just basically has failed at every coaching hire he's made so far, and he knows that this one probably could cost him his job too.
It will. If he fails this, it should. Yeah. If it doesn't, I don't understand what you need to do.
When I look at these, other prospects, and I've listened to each of the coaches. I've looked at their backgrounds, and there's a couple of guys on there who would be obvious candidates under the old concept that we had, that we were hiring the best we could find, but we weren't looking for the superstar coach. We weren't looking for the guy who's a real difference maker as a coach.
So you're really looking for, you're hoping, your thought process is, let me put it that way. Your thought process.
Yeah, I'm looking for a superstar.
You want to hit a home run with the
Visionary
coach.
superstar.
You think that Reddick has the tools to be that. See, this
I
is
think
where
it's the first guy we've seen other than Rondo that has excited me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and Rondo hasn't. Let's be honest, Rondo has legal issues, right?
Yeah, he has some personality issues and maturity.
Well,
issues.
personality, and maturity issues. I don't think are the. I mean, I think if you watch, it's Mind the Game, right? Not Mind Game. It's Mind the Game, right? Or that's the podcast that JJ Redick and LeBron have, right? Mind Game or Mind the Game?
Mind the Game.
That's what I thought. Okay, in the Mind the Game podcast, they talk about it. I think in episode 2 or 3, I want to say. And Pale Fox, I'm going to get to your question in just a second. Where JJ Redick point blank asked, like, who amongst players you've played with do you think would make a great coach? And right off the bat, LeBron says Rondo because of his knowledge of the game. Now, this is where I start to like diverge from the knowledge of the game camp, because there have been many great players and great role players who have transitioned to the head coach job. Some have had experience on the bench, some have not. Some have had, other activities that they were a part of. Steve Kerr was part of the front office. And I think he actually did some analysis on ESPN as well before he became the Warriors head coach. Luke Walton was Steve Kerr's assistant, was part of that team that
was talked about very much like JJ was, that this was the first attempt. The only attempt that we really made
was Luke. Well, you could argue Darvin Ham was the second attempt.
But not in the same. Nobody talked about Darvin's X's and O's and so forth. And
no, but they talked about his ability to relate to the players and to empower the players and and we saw that actually was not the case. So
because it's different. It's different as an assistant coach relating to the players and as a head coach.
It's everything about everything is different when you are the guy where the buck stops. So this is Pale Fox's question. Tell me how JJ would be any better than Luke, who actually succeeded as an assistant first and has rings on his finger. I was looking up JJ's rings and couldn't find any. That is because JJ Redick has never been part of a NBA championship winning team. Now that has nothing to do with anything. Steve Nash was never part of an NBA championship winning team. And I think that given the right, this is the thing. The bitch of it is when you're the head coach, you're only as good as the tools provided to you.
Yep.
You can only get so much done with what you are given. And
it's why some people say the Lakers job is not a great job.
That's right. It's exactly right, because the level of expectation is probably
sky high.
It's probably
and the support to get there is
it's unreasonable, right? It's a level of expectation that is kind of unreasonable. And so I kind of tend to agree with Pale Fox. I think that, and look, this is not a knock. I'm not knocking JJ Redick's potential. I'm not knocking JJ Redick as an analyst or his knowledge of the game. His knowledge of the game and his ability to pick out like actions and talk about them in an intelligent manner is not to be doubted. That podcast is fantastic to listen to. The way they break things down is a lot of fun.
They have great rapport. They have great rapport.
Notice
two guys that are 39 years old.
Yeah.
One very old for this profession and the other very young for the profession.
But see, this is where but when you watch that, you're not watching coaching.
No.
That's not coaching, right? And I think we both agree on that. You're watching a show. And so when you're watching a show,
But it tells you what things they think are important, which is
kind of. I mean,
you've been listening to LeBron explain, and you see what's happening. You see the knowledge in his brain, and you see how it's translated onto the court.
I mean, I
And
just come
think
away
that
from
what people are intrigued, what infatuates me about JJ is you can see that he's going to be making the smart adjustments, that he understands. It all comes down to what, when you're the coach, there's this demeanor thing and so forth, but ultimately it's the guys that you choose to put on the court together and the substitute and who you give priority to, the team that you build around, and you take those 12 guys and you put them out there on the court. It's those players it's your judgments that you made in putting that together and in motivating it and getting it to work and hum and developing some continuity and chemistry. That's the difference maker. It's part art and it's part science, it's definitely leadership and all of these things together. And you're right. It's a formula that can be combined by 100 different traits, and you can find a lot of different coaches that are dramatically different, but all of them seem to have a few things in common. They all have a belief of how you play the game.
Sure, but that belief
a really strong belief, and that affects every decision that they make. Like I want to coach. I want to coach, for example. I am so tired of not shooting enough threes. I want a coach who's going to shoot a lot of threes.
But this comes back to your only.
I want a coach on defense. I'm tired of fighting through screens. I want a coach who's defense let's build a switchable offense and switchable defense, and let's switch everything, and let's be aggressive. Let's no more drop coverage, man. I mean, I'm so tired of that.
I mean, you say that until we start giving up layups, and then you'll be like, oh, we need to switch and you're going to start, then your tune will change. And this is what I'm saying. For us, it's easy, right? We get to sit in our respective homes and we get to just think. We just get to think and opinionate. And that's very, 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 very easy.
With limited knowledge and a lot of it wrong.
Right. We have very little insight into the actual machinations behind the scenes, right? So I was going to say that for me, yeah, I mean, this is everybody's knock against JJ Redick. Everybody's, and this is my knock against JJ Redick as well, is he doesn't have, he just doesn't have the experience. And so everything that, thank you, Darren. That's very nice of you to say. My two favorite basketball guys, the yin and the yang. That's what we should call our show, the yin and the yang, because it's very true. It's very true.
Change your name to Wing. It could be the Wing and the Wong.
I would be. See, only you can make that joke. I'm not allowed to make that joke.
I've heard that joke a lot as a kid.
Not in 2024. I'm not. Or we could
call ourselves. I don't swing at anybody anymore for anything.
We could be the sweet and the sour, where you're sweet and I'm sour. I got that a lot when I was a kid.
That could be true.
That's because that's basically how it is. I'm the sour one, even though I'm sweet enough as it is, and you're. Well, I'm going to stop right there before I dig myself a hole. But this is my knock against JJ Redick. I would love it if he was the number one assistant behind Kenny Atkinson or JB Bickerstaff or somebody who has done the job. And I know that those names don't wow anybody, but you know what I think is the problem with with this.
Yeah, but that's an uncomfortable position. That's an uncomfortable position to put them in. And first, it denies
everybody.
Reality.
Listen, you're in a
higher thought of prospect than they are at this point.
You're walking into an uncomfortable job. There is no level of comfort to start with, so it doesn't matter. For my money, I'd be like, you know what, dude, the level of expectation is ridiculous. The tools that we have are limited. Good luck. By the way, we're going to give you an assistant I'd like for at least the head coach to discuss the idea of bringing in somebody like that. It doesn't have to be JJ Redick. It could be like another Luke Walton type, like more of a guy who has won it all. Rondo, somebody who has been in the game, played the game at a pretty high level, but as we saw with Steve Nash, that's not a precursor to success. And I wonder
you also don't have to be a player. You don't have to be a player.
No,
look at Sproles.
Look at Vogel. Vogel won a championship, never a player. Pop was never a player.
Yep.
There's a long list of very successful coaches who were never players. It's not a criteria for success. It helps I think it helps to relate to players in terms of, yes, I know it's an 82 grave grind. Yes, I understand, the business of being a player, right? The job of being a player, because it's a job. It's not a fun thing they're just doing for a lark.
Well, when you play 13, 15 seasons of 82 games and all of the stuff associated with it, injuries and all of that stuff, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get respect of the players when you haven't done that.
I mean, I think you saw that with Spo, that like if you're tough enough and you hew to your core, if you hew to your beliefs, and
LeBron tried to get him fired,
but he didn't.
No, he didn't, because
he did.
Riley stuck to his guns.
Because the ownership and the president of that franchise has a vision. That's the problem here.
And we don't have a vision, so we need somebody with a vision.
We do not have vision. And this is where I don't know if I believe in the hype that JJ Redick has a vision, because I go back and I look at his comments. Listen, I'm not trying to say that he can't dissect the game intelligently. That is different than having a vision.
Well, mostly your vision.
Let me finish my thought real quick. Let me finish my thought, and then I want to get to a couple of questions. But okay, so this is exactly the joke I was going to make. And this is why we can't have a nice America anymore, Kurt. Okay, this. Anyway, that's not the joke I was. You made it, not me. I just put it up there. Anyway, all right. So
his name was White.
So this is everybody likes to refer to Phil Jackson as a visionary, and that's not true. Phil Jackson was smart enough to see the visionary that was Tex Winters. Tex Winters was the visionary. Mm-hmm. Tex Winters was the architect of the modern triangle offense that was that was deployed. And Tex Winters, or whoever, and Frank Hamblin was the guy who got everybody. Like there was a little trio, right? That little trio of dudes, that nucleus of intelligence, that brain.
Well, it was a commitment to playing a particular style.
Fundamental basketball at a high level.
Yeah. Compare that to Mike Brown getting fired for putting the Princeton offense in preseason.
Well, I mean, listen, the thing is like all of these, but if you've watched Mind the Game, you realize that all of these things are just a lot of the times it's just a rebranding of a basic concept, right? Like you could argue that the modern NBA offense is really just a variation of the quick hitter play. The quick hitter play is you make 2 to 3 passes, often out of bounds, but it can be in as you bring the ball up court. You make it. It's 2 to 3 action shot, 2 to 3 action shot, 2 to 3 action shot. Usually less than 3. That's a quick hitter. It's a quick play. You hit the play quickly. That's 7 seconds or less. Mike D'Antoni just rebranded quick hitters, made it sound like something he invented. And everybody, 7 seconds or less. Genius.
I know you don't appreciate it, and you're under.
I'm not. All I'm saying. No. I'm not trying to devalue Mike D'Antoni. I think Mike D'Antoni would have made a incredibly brilliant offensive offensive coordinator.
Any NBA player would love to play offense for Mike D'Antoni, man.
And his out of bounds plays, his out of timeout plays were great because they're great quick hitter plays. He is a quick hitter play master, and that was the type of offense he ran all the time. And he had the perfect point guard to run it in Steve Nash. He had the perfect point guard to run it because Steve could hit from outside, and he was a great distributor, and he didn't need to be the man. And he had great finishers, and he had a great ISO player in the matrix. And so there's a lot that was going right for that team, and it's just unfortunate for him and his legacy that he was never able to push through, and that they also played at the same time.
In the wrong conference at the wrong time.
Wrong conference at the wrong time, which is the truth of many, many great NBA coaches and many great NBA players. And it's unfortunate. Carmelo Anthony, I will always feel like ought to have won a ring. He's good enough. He's smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like him. But he didn't. And I like that he's doing commercials now where he's like joking with Dwayne Wade on the sidelines. And they're talking about rings. And he gets all like bent out of shape. I think that's funny. Anyway, sorry, I'm ignoring all these questions. Oh, my gosh. There's so many questions now.
Here's a point I wanted to bring up that I thought was fascinating. There was a discussion during the Pacers game about the Pacers not running any plays. And when you think of their coach, Rick Carlisle, who's like, this is a coach that basically ran 99% of the time. You run the play the coach wants.
Get in my box.
Well, they don't run plays anymore. They're a concept team, he says. We just keep running the same thing. We just give the ball to
Tyrese
or to Ben. I can't believe how good TJ is playing. They give the ball to one of those two guys, and they just keep running the same little run plays. Quick pick and roll, move the ball. They don't even need to call plays. It's just fascinating when you think about that, because if you'd all follow the Lakers, you're bombarded by certain posters on X who are pushing the fact that we need to run more plays. We need to have less freelancing. And that's all very difficult on a team with LeBron James on it.
Yeah, that's like trying to get the
so
anyway.
And you try to relate those, and it's difficult. But it's interesting, because when you look at the formula that the Pacers are using, and also too, these young guys are making mistakes in the clutch. These young stars are making mistakes in the clutch that are costing their team dearly, and all of a sudden you understand that there is something about a veteran that's been there for 10 or 12 years that sometimes can be a real steadying influence, You
go back and watch that.
OKC, a lot of these teams may be looking to trade for some veterans just to give them some stability.
Klay Thompson is going to have a lot of suitors.
Yeah,
from three teams: Orlando, Indiana, OKC. All three have money. All three.
I hope Orlando goes after him really hot and heavy,
because that means they won't get D'Lo.
Yeah, right. That means we can trade D'Lo.
So, all right, I want to go a little bit deeper on this coaching thing, and then we're going to pivot to D'Lo. Okay. So this is the point I was trying to make. If all you're doing is rebranding things, and that's what I kind of feel like that Mind the Game is demystifying for me anyway. Like, what I like is that, like, we're going to talk about the Horns play, also called, and he lists like 5 other names. Like, say everything they run, they're like also called drops. And like, I like how they kind of
got their own vernacular for the.
But that's because everything is really just the same.
Yeah.
That when you're talking about these schemes, when you're talking about the way you play the game, because that so little has changed, the size of the court, the fact that there's a 3-point line, the fact that there's a paint area that you can only spend 3 seconds theoretically in. All the intricacies of the game have not changed all that much in the last years.
But I think that's the whole purpose of the Mind the Game podcast, was that LeBron and JJ both felt that the game had become so so shallow and surface oriented.
Well, it's getting replicated. Everybody's running like we're seeing. Everybody's running the same thing. Everybody is just running high pick and roll with their best player and their best shooter.
Listen, anybody who's ever played the game of basketball, if you go onto a court, what's the first thing? I mean,
you run a pick and roll.
I lived my entire life playing 2-man basketball, running pick and rolls with them.
There's very few players other than Kyrie Irving right now in the playoffs left who are excellent at breaking down a defense all by themselves.
Well, and the other one is Luka.
Right, but they're both on the same team. That's what's going to be devastating in the 7th round. That's why I don't know that Minnesota can come back from this. If Ant-Man,
they can't.
I don't know.
Games at home.
Well, they lost a game at home. Minnesota lost 2 games at home to Denver.
Yeah, but that's different.
It was after they had won 2 games in Denver.
Right.
So they had a different vibe going on.
No, I mean, hey, clutch, close games, but that's when you got an advantage, man. That was a killer 3 by Luka.
Oh, those step backs.
What a stupid play. What do you have? I mean, how can you have Rudy out there guarding him?
I mean, they worked the switch, and this is what happened.
But Rudy shouldn't have been in that lineup. It should have been Cat. That was stupid.
Maybe. I mean, whatever. They're going to work the switch that they want. This is the problem with.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. But I mean, the worst guy to defend out there is Rudy.
But you hear what you're saying, right?
Back off of him so far, just like he did, because he knows he can go around him in a flash.
This is something I had not considered, Kurt. I had not considered the Kyrie versus the Celtics angle, and now that is my new favorite. That is my new favorite potential subplot.
We may have to root for Luka and the
Oh,
Mavs.
I'll root for Luka over the Celtics.
I mean, I'll root for anybody over the Celtics.
Yeah, I might root for. Well, I'm not going to get political. Let's keep it cool.
No,
Let's keep it
that'd be crazy. I won't even do that for.
cool.
I would even root for the Celtics over that.
I don't know, man. I really hate the Celtics. So okay.
Throw the Red Sox in there too. Okay.
Yep. Anything I'll buy. I have a whole thing. I should probably talk to my therapist about Boston going on in my brain. Okay, so this is the thing though. Like, one of the things that I disagree with. I'm not going to disagree that LeBron and JJ have a great ability to, in the comfort of a studio, seemingly pretty off the cuff, but if you go back and listen and watch, they do definitely have takes off that they're pretty. They have a pretty quick response to talking about the game in a TV studio. This is different than doing it in a timeout. This is different than doing it when competition is what's actually happening. There's no level of competition here. LeBron is in a very relaxed. LeBron is in the most relaxed possible state he can be. He's not like pissed off after somebody blew a coverage.
High on wine.
That will not be the case if JJ Redick is the coach. These are all the things that kind of, for me personally, work against the idea of just like, rubber stamping JJ Redick in and being like, he's the guy, without there being a lengthy process to determine if, because let's be honest, D'Lo had his best season of basketball ever under Kenny Atkinson.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that's enticing to anybody.
Well, he had his best playoff.
JB Bickerstaff, we're not getting Donovan Mitchell, right? So just throw that out the window. But JB Bickerstaff took a bunch of guys nobody believed in, and he started getting them to get to the playoffs and went further and further every season. I think that Cleveland is going to regret that firing, to be honest. I don't think they're going to find anybody better than JB Bickerstaff. And I think that it could be they just do we're going to start seeing some of these guys who haven't gotten it done somewhere else. The Terry Stotts, the Kenny Atkinsons. There's another guy who I'm forgetting who's out there. Yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about a very small pool, and when you look at the number of success stories there are, this is the only negative. Yeah, I know. I know that nobody wants to see Mark Cuban win, and I'm with everybody on that. I agree. I've met Mark Cuban. He's a douchebag, but he's not Boston. Okay? It's as simple as that. He's not Boston. Okay? So I agree with this, Kurt. You're absolutely right. However, it doesn't matter to me anyway. Anyway, I don't know. Listen, it's going to be somebody. I'm glad that they're taking their time again for the fourth time in 6 years.
It'll be done by the end of next week. They'll announce that he's going to have
the Lakers love to take over the beginning of the NBA Finals by saying we have a coach. It's like our biannual tradition now. And that's just how they do it. It's a marketing ploy. I get it.
They interviewed him first, and from everything I heard,
and second, they've given him 2 interviews, I believe. Yeah, this is what I mean. This Kenny Atkinson.
There's a bunch of things that we have to do right this summer. The first one is hire the right coach. And the second one is keep D'Angelo Russell. That's my latest stance on D'Angelo. You cannot let him walk. You have to keep him. You cannot find a better point guard.
Oh, yeah.
We have a list of 3 things that we need. We need a point of attack defender, we need a wing defender, and we need a backup center. And you want to then go out here and add to that also a new point guard when you already know that there isn't anybody out there as good as D'Angelo available.
Rob, he just loves to turn the roster over.
Not only that, you can't let him walk, because if you let him walk, then you're going to have to give up players that you don't want to give up for just to make improvements other places that you need. So you just basically got to bite the bullet and understand, okay, what do we have to do then? Okay, let's get somebody to play next to D'Angelo, who's a terrific defender and also can shoot and score. You need to do something to help make his job easier. Make him be more successful. Invest in him. You can get him at a price that you can't get anybody else who could do the job that he's done. Eat up the regular season. It's worth it, because your alternatives are so terrible that it's ridiculous. You can't find. There's nobody else. You're going to replace him with Tyus Jones. You can't even afford him.
No, we can't afford Tyus Jones.
You're gonna be limited to 13 million. You're gonna trade for what?
You could get him in a trade, but you can't just sign him with
No, I mean
he's going to make $20 million this season.
The second thing we have to do after giving JJ Redick the job as head coach is to re-sign D'Angelo Russell to a 3-year deal.
I love this. I mean, it's hard to read it with the orange and green print. I don't choose that font. I don't choose those things.
I can't even read that.
Yeah. So thank you, Darren, for the support. First off, the analytic crowd that voted for Gobert as Defensive Player of the Year are losing credibility as we breathe, or a case of Coke. I mean, listen.
How many times can playing drop coverage can Rudy give up dunks to the other center?
How many times in a switch everything are they going to switch on to a Gobert?
Well,
this is what happens.
So you can't play switch everything when you got Rudy Gobert out on the court.
But this is the problem, right? They have the tools that. It comes back to the tools. Everybody like this, the coach. And I am almost never, within all sport, the GM gets fired, or I'm sorry, the manager gets fired in baseball before the GM. Why? He didn't assemble the team. He was given like 30 people or whatever.
That's why the department heads go before the CEO.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like every time though. And so it and the Lakers, this is when they fired him, I was like, this is the pattern. This is the pattern because Rob.
Yeah, but you have to fire him. You have no choice. When you screw up.
Yes, you did. You could have fired Pelinka.
Well, we would have, but
I would have. I would have fired Pelinka before I fired him. I would have
hired Myers the minute he came available.
Yes. Yes. Well, or you even say like, Bob, listen, take a year, chill out. Decompress. Next year, I'm going to fire Rob. I'd fire him now, but I get it. You want a break. I'm going to fire Rob and I'm going to hire you. And we're not going to talk about this for a year. Right. Love Jeannie Buss. That would have been me. Minute one. I would still fire Rob right now to get Bob Myers in the front office because
but that's not going to happen.
If you talk about if you're betting on the superstar, Bob Myers is the superstar. Rob Pelinka is the Luke Walton. I hope I can do it guy. And that's the reality. This is my problem with everything right now is that when the guy at the top pulling all the strings is incompetent, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the way you get by that is you get a coach who becomes the face of the franchise.
But he can't make the deals. He's not going to bring in the players.
He can have a huge impact on who they're going to bring in, what kind of offense you're going to run, what kind of defense you're going to run. Building a roster all starts with what your coach wants, not what your GM wants. Unless your GM happens to be a visionary like Riley, who has a certain sense of what he wants and is going to impose that on the entire franchise.
Not surprisingly, I also disagree with this because Rob Pelinka runs a parliamentary democracy for his GM.
I know.
This is what we're up against. You see, like we're trying to find a solution.
The legend of Kobe is keeping him alive.
The solution isn't in the granular details of the roster or in the schemes the coach runs.
But you have to be in one of the other multiverses in order for this to work.
But
in this multiverse, Jeannie Buss owns the Lakers.
But I think she does in most multiverses at this point because.
Well, no, she might have been run over by a car, and Jesse took over in other universes.
I don't mind Jeannie as an owner. I mean, I think that there are some things that she could do better. I think there are things that she could do worse. My one knock is the Rob Pelinka thing. That's it. Everything else, I feel like she's actually done a pretty good job of empowering all the people below her, which is what I like to see from the owner. I don't like the Mark Cubans of the world. I don't want a Mark Cuban for an owner. Somebody who's in the details of everything, who's putting his fingers in every single pie, micromanaging everything. I don't mind an owner like that when the owner makes the right decisions, but 9 out of 10 of those types of owners don't make the right decisions. No, I mean, I think that we both agree we'd like to see the Lakers spend more on coaches. We'd both like to see the Lakers spend more on training staff and this thing, the other thing. I don't know how much they spend compared to other teams. That sort of stuff isn't ever released.
Well, here's what I'd like to know. How can you go to a board of directors meeting? Look at the way that you used to be the second most valuable franchise.
Yep.
And that was built on because of championships. And then see what Bob Myers did with the Warriors by winning those championships and catapulting them up above the Lakers and even above the Knicks.
Yep. Well, because
to where their value that they have added to the Warriors under Myers is greater than the value of the fucking Lakers.
Well, okay, so there's a few details I think you're kind of obfuscating. One is that the Warriors own, I believe, their new arena. The LaCubs bought it.
Yep.
The LaCubs built it. It's theirs. So when you buy the team, you're buying the arena. So there's value in that, inherent value in the land and in the facility. The Lakers do not own crypto. Dr. Buss did own at the time when he did the Lakers. He owned everything. He owned the forum. He owned the whole kit and caboodle. That is not the case with the crypto arena. They are. I don't think they own it
really
at all.
Thought about that. That's a good point.
So we have to consider
the franchise. Like the Knicks had Madison Square Garden.
The Knicks own Madison Square Garden. Everything that happens
owning Madison Square Garden.
Also, they created their own cable TV. They still run their own cable. All of that is built.
I watch it every day.
So, right. So this is the thing. The Lakers, it's just the team. Yeah. So I would still argue that
they don't have any outside sources of income. The owners of the team. It's
no. You know. So all of that aside, I don't hate Jeannie. I think she's made some mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That's acceptable. The one mistake I can't really get over is the Rob Pelinka not getting fired yet mistake, because that just tells me your faith and loyalty and friendship or what have you is outweighing empirical evidence, and you can't run a business like that.
Yeah,
you have to run.
I think it works in our favor this time because Rob knows that he can't go and hire another 3 or 4 year retread.
But he's never tried to hire a 3 or 4. Every press conference he's ever given, Luke Walton is the visionary who will take us to the next chapter.
That one is the visionary who will take us. I bought into that, and I actually was surprised that Luke
didn't work out.
Hey, what is Luke doing now? Is he an assistant anywhere? Is he even
I think he's an assistant in Cleveland, or was. I think he's on the Cleveland bench.
But Frank, Frank was a higher retread. Frank was the same as.
But he won a championship.
Now that's not to say, listen. Every time we hire a coach, even if I didn't like the hire, man, my tendency is to look at the positive and get aboard, and I raw on all of the same things about Darvin. Okay, he's a guy who they can relate to the players. He won a championship, et cetera, et cetera. He's hard nosed. He's defense first guy, so forth. You just have to see what happens.
So he said, but I will now. I have to walk back some of my critiques of Frank Vogel, I think, at this point, because like Rick Carlisle, his offense was give the ball to the best player. That was it. Run something over here, run something over there, do a little of this, do a little of that. You go, guys. That was the offense, right? It was not spectacular, especially out of timeouts.
And again, it's hard when you got a LeBron James or a Kobe Bryant on the roster.
This is the thing. There's nobody in the coaching pool that we're looking at that's.
It's like you don't hire. It's hard to imagine hiring Mike D'Antoni to coach Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, it was hard to imagine, and they did it, and it was ridiculous. It was the dumbest thing they could have done.
Yeah,
it was the dumbest thing they could have done. What's up, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights? How you doing today? I don't know. Okay, I'd like to pivot away from the coaching staff search or for the head coaching search, because it just annoys me at this point. Like, I just want it to be over. Like, I don't. In a way, I'm almost to the point where I'm like, it doesn't even matter.
What do you think about Stan Van Gundy as an elite assistant?
I would actually prefer Jeff. I would prefer Jeff Van Gundy. I would prefer Jeff Van Gundy because I think he would be the most capable. I like Jeff Van Gundy more as a human being. I find him to be funnier. They're both funny in their own way, but Jeff Van Gundy cracks me up regularly when he was part of the broadcast team. I think that he is not as inflexible in his thinking as Stan is. I think Stan is very rigid in his thinking. Stan's got a way he thinks it should go. And I think that you have to, again, your greatest quality as a coach, and this is I think what Phil was always great at, was that like he would look at the tools provided and then figure out a way to make it work. He didn't say like, this is how I want it to work. Let's make these tools do what I want them to do. And then when it doesn't work, gets frustrated. I think that
but
that's
then
the trap
see
Darvin Ham
what
falls
happens
into.
when you get to New York? What happens when you get to New York and you apply that same principles?
He wasn't coaching in New York, and he thought that Kurt could do his job, and he couldn't. I think that's part of, and he
But
wanted.
running a system for the
But
even
that was
running a system that's not right for the personnel that you have.
But that was because he's a bad GM. So now again, we're talking about two different things. You're saying like, this is what I mean. There's because you're a great
not
player,
necessarily
no,
because
hold on. No. You just made my point for me without me even trying. Because you're a great player does not make you a great coach. Because you're a great coach does not make you a great GM. Right? This is what we're learning.
No, I would agree with that.
Right. So,
but there also is.
So now you're talking
whether you're a team leader, whether you're a superstar leader of a team, whether you're a coach or whether you're a general manager, there also are several very important traits that flow through all three of them that you have to have. You know, people have to respect your intelligence in the game. You know, that you made the right plays, you make the right calls, and so forth. And you have to do that at all three levels, even though there are differences in what separates those things out. I think that you get into a problem with superstars trying to be coaches and general managers because maybe it's something to do with the fact that you have to have such an ego to be a superstar that it is hard to take those and all of those things that made you a superstar as a player aren't necessarily the traits that are going to make you a superstar as a coach or a general manager. And that's hard for guys' egos to handle.
Well, this is the point I'm trying to make, is that a lot of this I feel like comes down to people's unwillingness to sacrifice their pride.
Great Darvin Ham, that was totally what the problem was.
Great coaches don't put the system before winning. Great GMs don't put loyalty to an agency or to a player before winning.
Well,
great owners.
Regardless of what you think, when you got a chance to get Wemby, that's going to decide how you're going to play. You know.
Yeah, those are 1 in a million, and that was no guarantee that they were going to get Wemby, and they lucked out.
But a lot of GMs, I think, can't get by. There's a lot of GMs and a lot of coaches who don't have a system. Show me the players and I'll figure out, we'll play whatever system works best for those players. Or we can draft whatever you want, defense, offense, big or small. I think that there's, to me, I always hated those guys. I hated those guys because I've always felt there's a better way to play the game. I don't like passive defenses. I'd much rather attack. I can't stand drop coverage. I can't stand guys constantly getting put in jail behind guys like Doncic, and so forth. It's just totally changed how you defend the game. I can't stand not shooting enough threes so that you can create enough space so that you guys attack the rim. The right way is to shoot threes so you can attack the rim, not attack the rim so you can shoot threes. That's the reverse. We're doing the wrong way. We're approaching the game from the wrong standpoint. You still can the goal is still to get as many baskets, as easy baskets as you can. The way to do that is shoot threes so you create a lot of space and then you can attack the rim.
Not if you're not making threes, but yes. I understand the philosophy. I think, again,
that's more important to me. Now, if you ask me, here's a question that would have been a good question for you to ask me. What would undermine my confidence in JJ Redick? What do I not want to hear from him?
Yeah, what don't you want to hear from him?
I don't want to hear from him that he loves drop coverage, that he thinks that the Lakers are fine shooting just 33s a game. I hear that kind of crap, and I'm out of the JJ Redick camp now.
Okay, so let me tell you this then. You're not going to hear anything. Nobody's going to say anything. So two things. As we'll see, whenever the press conference happens for the next Lakers head coach, people say, what suits the moment, not what they're thinking or not the reality. Because Rob Pelinka will say, so and so we believe is the next person to take us into the next great era of Laker basketball and will lead us. We're
But
all about championships.
he has
And
nowhere to go now but JJ Redick.
And have you not heard me say this? Have you not heard me say this every 2 years about this time when we announce our head coach that I fired? And it's basically the same speech I give every time. And yada, 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 blah, blah,
No,
blah.
it's different.
And then that coach will come in and say, I want to create a defense. I think that I believe in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And no, LeBron James isn't too old. And da-da-da-da-da. It's going to be the same thing. Everything's said in every press conference. It's like media day. Oh, we have high hopes for the season. Of course you do. It hasn't started yet. All you're doing is filling air with sound bites, and it doesn't matter. None of it matters. All of this stuff right now doesn't matter because
but you don't think it's totally different now? I mean, think about the Rob Pelinka situation, because this is Rob's last chance to get it right. And then secondly, they've come out and said that they're looking for the next Pat Riley. Now, if you've come out and said you're looking for the next Pat Riley and you want to announce that you just hired Terry Stotts, or
well, listen,
any of these other guys that are on the other candidates.
Magic Johnson said he had just drafted the next Magic Johnson when he drafted Lonzo Ball. People say whatever they think suits the moment. That's not the point.
But Rob Pelinka knows that if he screws up this coaching decision,
does he know that?
Yeah, I think he does. Because everybody's already said it's seven coaches now since Phil.
He's only responsible. He's only responsible for 4 of those. Let's be honest. So that's
But 4 of them is starting to rack it up.
No, but I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, would Jimbo have even been fired if he had been not so terrible at trades, at over trading? I don't think he would have.
He wasn't alone. He had a general manager, an experienced, long time general manager who had made great trades in the past.
Yep. And that all fell apart somehow. Well, I think honestly, Mitch, after his family tragedies that befell the Kupchak family, he should have stepped back. He should have been like, I need a couple of years to deal with this. And he didn't. And I think that after he quit, because he didn't get fired, he quit.
Coach Bud probably should have done the same thing in Milwaukee.
We'll find out. I mean, I definitely think Doc Rivers should have stayed away from Milwaukee. He should have taken a year away from the game. I mean, I don't know what a summer of if Giannis isn't right, that team's going nowhere. So, yes, this will forever be what we believe. Mozgov and Deng were the nails in the coffin because they were for so much money and for so very long. Inexplicable. For so very little in return. It was just like, what? Nobody, I think, thought those were good moves. I don't know why Jim and Mitch thought they were good moves. I think they were thinking they were getting Luol Deng from like 5 years ago. And I don't know what version of Mozgov they thought they were getting. It was like, do you really think this guy is good? Like, what? Anyway, that's all in the past. We don't need to rehash that. I just have I don't see anything getting better while Pelinka's in charge. And so I don't have high hopes for whoever the coach is.
Well, come on, Jimmy. You can't just say Pelinka's so bad that we have no chance. Because
I
you need JJ to be what everybody's hoping, what all of the JJ fans are hoping will really happen. That he'll be a vision who will be implementive in getting the right players to the team.
He doesn't get the players on
the right way, and
nope, it doesn't work like that.
Sure, it can.
No, it doesn't.
Sure, it can.
It doesn't.
It can,
but that's different than how it actually does. Like, yes,
he can be another Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr doesn't get the players on the roster.
Nobody has a good say of it.
To a point.
But listen.
And we saw Darvin.
They listen very strong.
Darvin Ham
no general manager is going to make a move that Steve Kerr does not want you to make.
Darvin Ham haven't saying it. We kept Taurean Prince evidently at the trading deadline when we have evidently had an opportunity to trade him for anybody at all.
Well, I happen to like Taurean Prince. I hope we resign him.
I think he's not worth the money that he was paid, but sure, he's a fine role player. last summer people thought Pelinka should be GM of the year. I was not one of those people. Winning makes everyone forget. I thought basically I gave Pelinka credit for digging himself out of the hole he dug himself into.
Right.
That doesn't make him great. That makes him have. We've seen that he has the survivability of a cockroach in the nuclear war.
Well, you're not building a mountain when all you're doing is
Digging out of the hole.
that you
Right.
dug yourself.
You're just back to base.
You're just back to the starting point again.
You're back at sea level. You're not. You're not.
Ivan Darwin dropped you down to the point where if you don't get this one right,
no, I think
you're
people.
gone.
I think like people unfairly got on Vogel, and I think the same thing is happening with Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham was learning on the job. It's as simple as that.
Some guys have to learn on the job. Some guys don't.
Everybody learns on the job. I don't care who you are.
Everybody learns on the job, but sometimes guys can do the job well enough without having the experience.
That you're lucky then. So then we're factoring in a great deal of luck into the equation. Fantastic. I love luck. Luck is my favorite thing to bet on because it happens so frequently that it breaks in your favor. Ask Vegas. Ask Vegas how they feel about luck.
Well, no, that's not that. You can't use that as a comparison.
Yes, I can.
They build in an advantage for the house.
Oh, yes, I can. There's not a built-in advantage. The built-in advantage is that there is no advantage in games of chance because it's based on chance.
Well,
okay.
There are. I think that's not totally true because I've known people that are lucky.
Sure. If you're a believer in the Fallout 4 Bethesda stats special formula, yes, you can put a lot of points in luck, and you can be very lucky. Listen, I'd like to wrap up the show with your thoughts on where we're at in the NBA playoffs. I'm a little surprised where we're at. Are you surprised?
Not really. I think that I think what we've seen is the young teams, the young play. While I'm very commonly say that we're going through a changing of the guard where the older teams and older players are being replaced by younger teams and younger players, what has struck me in these series is that in the clutch, the younger players, the younger stars have not been able to overcome the older stars yet. So the guys who are, Kyrie's still making those plays, and it's, I think both series are over. I think the finals are predetermined right now, and it's basically going to be, Boston versus Dallas, and I'm going to have to root for a team that has two guys that I really dislike personally, and.
I don't dislike Luka. I like Luka. I think Luka's funny. I like watching him.
What really pisses me off about Luka is the guy should be treated like LeBron when it comes to fouls, but they treat him like he's Trae Young. The slightest little bump in a game where guys are getting butchered and hammered to the floor on every drive, the slightest little bump as you go into the lane gives him free throws. It's ridiculous.
Well, we'll see. I think that Minnesota is going to find their vibe on the road. I think that Ant-Man and Cat especially play better on the road for whatever reason. I think that there's a lot. I think for Karl Anthony Towns, there's a lot of baggage with him in the city of Minnesota and the franchise of the Timberwolves. They've been through a lot together. Most of it bad, right? Most of Karl Anthony Towns.
I loved when they were complaining about. That the Minnesota hadn't lost enough to get to the finals. And Cat said, "Yeah, Jesus, we lost for 20 years in a row. What do you want?
What do you want? Right? What are you talking about?" No, right. That's what I mean. Like this is like not. He's in an unfamiliar place in that he's successful, right? And that comes with a lot of pressure, and especially at home, you put more pressure on yourself to be like, I want to turn it around here so badly. That you just put and then you play a little freer, you play a little looser on the road. Right. I actually expect them to come back and win at least one, if not two games in Dallas. I think that's just what I expect. We'll see what happens though. I also don't think Indiana's done. Even if even if Halliburton can't go, I think that they have enough on that team to push Boston in ways.
They gave away a game, man.
And that's the real thing.
Do that in the finals.
Well, I mean, you could argue that there were a few too many foul calls in Boston's favor. Go figure. But whatever. Carlisle, he can't. Once he pulled that card in the New York series, you can't pull that card every series. You can't whine about the big, strong, big franchises and the fouls and the small market teams, and just stop with that. Like, just compete. That's not why you're losing. And he was right. It was because they weren't matching the physicality of the Knicks, and he's right in that their team is not now currently matching the physicality.
That was just they've been.
That inbounds play was
bad plays by young teams and young players in the clutch have turned the series around.
Yeah, no, it has. And like, you could argue that Tatum and Brown, when I understand the question posed to Karl Anthony Towns, and that Karl Anthony Towns hasn't lost enough at this level, right? And you're
supposed to fail at that level a couple of times before you make it.
You're supposed to get tested in the
progress. You can show progress,
Right, like Kobe got tested in the Utah series when he shot 3 air balls.
Now too many stars get injured, so that by the time you get there, you're playing against a team that's not the real team that was playing the regular season.
Curtis Fair, Boston Kupchak did a great job protecting those lottery picks. Yes, they did. Anyway, I'm not too surprised. I thought that Minnesota, as Jokic said, Minnesota was the team that would give Denver the hardest time. I picked Minnesota to have the best record in the West. They ended up, I think, with the 3rd best record, but it was like I think there's one game separating OKC, Denver, and Minnesota at the end, maybe 1.5. So they were right there. I thought that there was a good chance that Minnesota would come out of the West. I thought it would be
Minnesota to come out of the West, but
I thought it would be Denver.
That trade, I mean, I must have asked for Gafford 1,000,000 times in trade.
I know you did, Tom.
And
Washington.
And I wanted Lively. I wanted them to draft Lively, but he didn't get.
Well, that we couldn't do.
And then PJ Washington, I traded for him 1,000,000 times, and it's like here the Cuban goes out there and he picks up 3 players between the draft and the trade deadline
for almost nothing.
Transformed a terrible defensive team into a team that now has 2 guys that are probably the best dunkers in the game at this point in time, and they're both playing excellent defense. And that team they've transformed that team.
PJ Washington's about
to. And the Lakers instead made a decision that there was no move they could make that would improve them enough to be a competitor.
I wonder who was.
They could have gone out and used the pick and gotten the same players.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that LeBron's issues with the Lakers don't come from the head coach. I think that it doesn't matter who the head coach is. He's going to do what he does, and the coach is going to follow in behind. That's just how it is. I think most of LeBron's issues come from the front office. He wanted us to make a move at the deadline last season. We did not. He wanted us to go out, and he wants us to go out and get him another star, potentially, or not. We don't really know for sure, but I think that he definitely wants somebody who will attract the defenses, who will suck the defense in. He doesn't want to have to be the only guy that sucks the defense in anymore. And that's how the Lakers function right now.
Don't you think that, when I listen to LeBron and JJ have conversations and have differences of opinions and talk through things, it strikes me that they're already on the same page as to how the game should be played. And I've always thought that LeBron is very coachable, but he's also so smart that there's a point where if you're not doing the right thing as a coach to optimize the team or optimize him or if we're losing and not winning like he thinks we should be, that he's going to then start doing a lot more freelancing of trying to win the game, So I think it's an important thing that the more I see it, I don't see how they can not hire JJ Redick at this point in time, based upon what the team has said, based upon all these rumors, based upon the fact that they're bringing in the next Pat Riley. they're going to come out there and they're going to announce that, no, it's not JJ Redick that we're hiring. It's Edelman, son, or it's one of the assistants that didn't make it to the finals,
Borrego or Adelman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how they can do that at this point in time. So I think the decision's really already been made, and what they're just doing is due diligence to make sure that they can say they talked to all of these other guys.
Maybe we'll see. I have my doubts about that, but really,
I don't see how they can pull it off if they don't. I mean, it's just like they've gone too far. They've gone too far in almost in allowing the situation to get to this point. I mean, even to the point where LeBron and JJ are joking about it on the podcast.
Well, that's different. That's joking about ESPN and its desire for never-ending content, and those are two completely different things. This is why
talking about there's other NBA news, et cetera, that everybody wants to talk about, and he was obviously talking about his.
Of course he was. No, of course he was because LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers drive media content. It's as simple as that, and this is why I don't really put much stock. And I know I don't mean to throw Javon Buha or Sham Shrino or Woj or any of those guys under the bus, but because they have a job, right? They have a lovely job. Their job is to be the bucket.
They're to be the insider.
They're not insiders. They're the bucket. They're like Osric in Hamlet. If you're not familiar with Hamlet, Osric is the character who just goes from one person to the other and delivers exactly the information that was told him. And when asked for any other probing thoughts or details, simply repeats the information that was told him over and over and over. He's a comedic character. He's the only jokester in all of Hamlet, which is otherwise a quite dour read or viewing experience. Should you go see the entire thing live, or if you watch I love it, Kenneth Branagh version. But here's the thing: like those guys aren't really insiders. They're not. They have a source who is a predetermined source. It's not like, it's not like
somebody they bribe and pay off with a lot of
right. It's not like they dressed up like a janitor and snuck into the facility and looked at some notes in somebody's office and did some real reporting and then got out of there before anybody noticed they were around. And I got some news. No, somebody texted them like, "Hey, Shams, this might or might not happen. Love, whoever." Then they turned that into a really great article that we're all going to talk about for like a day, and then it doesn't happen. That, like the trading deadline, the Lakers are going to make a move. They're not. I don't listen to any of it anymore. I tune it all out. Like it doesn't impact my thought process at all, for good or bad. Maybe they,
Well, you have to sort out. You have to just keep in perspective where the rumors are coming from.
This is a valid.
This is marketing. It's marketing 1A.
It's marketing 1A is exactly right, which is why I tune it out.
Who's going to benefit from this particular report? Is it the player? Is it the team? Is it another team?
The agent.
Is it the agent?
It's always the agent. It's always the agent. The agent is always the one driving the content. I guarantee it. This is an interesting viewpoint. At least D'Lo and Reeves outperformed their contracts. I tend to agree with that. And we'll probably close on this point. I'd like to just say that I think that there is no better bargain backcourt. The bang you get for your buck with D'Lo and Reeves is not to be found elsewhere. They just
need to move Reeves to the bench as a sixth man, or probably have to trade him to really get somebody that's.
Or he needs to take a step forward. I think he could still take another step in his game. I think he can improve his 3-point volume. I think he could take more threes, and I think he could be better at just driving to the rim.
Yeah.
Without
the problem is that neither one of them can play enough defense for two of them to be on a backcourt and a starting backcourt. You got to pair one of them with a point of attack defensive oriented guard.
Isn't that supposed to be Gabe Vincent for $11 million a year? Anyway,
I think that ship sailed.
I do too.
I just saw Lakers Nation actually being willing just to get somebody to take Vincent's contract, that we would give him a 29 or 28 trade swap. It was that bad.
Oh yeah, I would
prospects of being that person, being that player we need to make D'Lo or to make
Yes, it
Reeves
is.
a quality starter. That's not going to happen with him.
This is the real thing we won't be overcoming anytime soon. LeBron's defense is worse than D'Lo and Reeves. Not in the playoffs, but in the regular season, definitely. We did see LeBron turn it up a notch in the playoffs. But his dude's 40. Like, let's be honest. Like, he doesn't have the lateral quickness that he used to have. I don't care how much hyperbaric chamber he sleeps in, or if he takes a nap in carbonite. It's just, that's the reality. The dude's 40.
Well, it's not going to get any better.
It's not going to get any better. And so
you better accept that.
You either have to be.
Well, it just depends. There are certain players in certain situations and ends of games where he can be fine.
Sure.
And it actually can even approach elite times. But
you saw that the Nuggets were.
I'm even having a hard problem now not having him play power forward. We're probably going to have to, I'm now concentrating on moves that bring.
No, you're going to want him on. You want him at the 3 guarding another 3-and-D wing who doesn't do a lot of cutting.
No, but
that's
great. But a lot of the problem is that half the teams he can play 3, half the teams he has to play 4.
Yeah, I agree. But even then, he's not boxing out guys like Aaron Gordon. Even then, he's not doing the little things that was the difference in our series, right? LeBron couldn't stop Aaron Gordon.
Yep.
AD did a fine job on Jokic.
Nobody could stop Michael Porter Jr.
And nobody was able to stop Michael Porter Jr. Minnesota figured that out. Minnesota was able to put Kyle Anderson and Michael Porter Jr. and Kat on Jokic, and Rudy Gobert was able to definitely box out Aaron Gordon.
They've got a great assortment of length and
yes. We used to have that.
Yeah.
We used to have that.
Tried so hard to get Naz Reid in a trade 2 years ago.
It's never going to happen. They know what they got. He's vastly outperforming.
Yeah, you can't get him now. There was a point 2 years ago when he could have got him.
Maybe. I don't know. You'd have to overpay every season to get him. But
but that's what you have to do. You have to find the guy that
is worth it to overpay for.
Great and over.
I am hopeful.
I mean, I wish we would. It's just making those right moves. It's like going out and getting Aaron Gordon for a first-round draft pick. Did that work? Did that work?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's those are the types of moves that.
But I would argue that they underpaid for Aaron Gordon. That Orlando basically gave him away.
Yep.
Because they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah.
And so there
are certain players that are out there that may not want to get paid.
That's the real problem.
I like very much the idea of. I would trade Reeves. Okay, this is a good one. I'll trade Reeves and Rui and a first-round pick to Orlando for Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac.
That's not happening. That's just not happening. Why would Orlando do that?
Well, because they would.
Suggs is the heart and soul of that team. And they can get D'Lo in free agency simply by overpaying.
No, they get D'Lo in free agency.
They can get their third or fourth. They just have to overpay him. That's it. They don't have to give anything away. They have to use the cap space they already have. They
have bigger priorities than D'Lo.
What? They've got everything else.
Klay Thompson. It's their top priority.
I think that's wishful thinking on your part. I think you are projecting a wish out into reality, and that's fine. I'm just calling it like I see it. But I think yes, we are wasting AD's prime, and we wasted LeBron's prime the 3 years where we played him with Luke and the baby Lakers.
That's what happens when you got Rob Pelinka in charge.
Oh man, okay, third and okay, well yeah. So I think Sean has got LeBron's back, which LeBron is an all-time great. It's not LeBron's fault he's turning 40. It's maybe his fault that he hasn't.
He still should have been second team All NBA.
He should have been second team ahead of Kawhi. I agree. I don't know why Kawhi Leonard got on there.
That was ridiculous.
He played far fewer games.
That says something. At 39 years old, you could be one of the top 10 players in the league. Still,
top 15
is that's impossible. That's
even commendable. Impossible. Yeah. Anyway, here's the thing. We're gonna end it on this because I gotta get going. I just saw it's after 11, so I gotta move along. I think that we're only gonna be as good as Rob Pelinka can make us this summer, and whatever that looks like, if it doesn't involve improving on the defensive end, which may come internally just with Jared Vanderbilt getting healthier, right? May come internally.
I agree with you. We have our defense. We need three things for defense. We need a point of attack player, point of attack defender, a wing defender, and a backup.
I think we got that. I think we have a wing defender in Vando or a point of attack defender in Vando.
I don't know if I don't know if Vando can be starter though.
I think he can over Prince, and I think he can over Hachimura.
I would agree in both of those situations.
Hachimura and Prince were our two starters last season, so I think he can be a starter.
I don't think he.
I also think that you want to start building. I always thought we misused that Darvin Ham didn't understand how to use Rui Hachimura. You need to put Rui Hachimura in a lineup where he has the ball, and you just got to let him be Rui Hachimura. And you got to live with that until he figures it out. And if he doesn't figure it out, then you know what you have, which is somebody who can't quite be a great role player because he needs the ball in his hands. He's not a great off-ball player. We don't run play. We think Rui Hachimura is going to be Aaron Gordon. He is not.
No, he's a great mid-range shooter, one-on-one shooter.
He's a great one-on-one player.
Post him up and let him go to work.
Right. That's nobody figured that out on the Lakers all for a year and a half. It took I wonder.
Well, the problem is he gives you an illusion that he's a third big, but he isn't.
Yeah, I hope they trade Vincent.
An occasional block and an occasional rebound is not enough for that. You need somebody who's going to be Michael Porter Jr. or,
I mean, even Michael Porter Jr. was only great against Lakers. I think you need somebody who's I think what you need to look at is what are the things. This is the last point I'm going to make. And then I'll let you rebut if you want, and then we're gonna close it off because we can just go back and forth on this for forever. My wife's gonna kill me.
We've been doing it for 20 years, man.
I know. Don't tell me. Somebody an album I really like was like, oh, this album is 20 years old. And I was like, son of a. It's an inexorable aging process. It just doesn't stop. You can be consistent in one area of basketball, and that is defense. Everybody's offense comes and goes. It's like a pitcher. I don't care how many pitches you have in your arsenal. At some point, they're not working. You're tired. They figured you out. Whatever it is, and you've got to tweak something. You don't have to tweak your effort. If you have effort, you give effort. If you know how to give effort and focus it on the basketball court, it's there, right? We have had too many guys where we're betting on an intangible improvement. I hope he shoots the way he shot from three last season on a different team in a different system with different players around him.
No, but we're dealing with flawed players because that's all we can afford to get.
That's not true. We spent $11 million on Gabe Vincent.
He was a flawed player for $11 million to start with.
But we chose to go on in a flawed player rather than somebody like Tyus Jones, right? You could have said we want the best backup point guard we can get, and that was Tyus Jones. Yeah. And whether you agree, and that's not because he's a great shooter. He's not. He doesn't turn the ball over. He plays hard, and he's good on defense. That's it. You don't worry about the 3-point. I understand your concern about 3-point shooting and offense, but it's not consistent. You're not going to win a basketball game in the playoffs when you want to with volume 3-point shooting. You will not do it if you cannot defend. You will not consistently outscore opponents. The game is just not designed that way. And the thing that drove me mad about last season, one of the key pillars to our strategy was getting to the free throw line. What goes away in the playoffs? Free throws. It's like, are we the only?
Well, they changed the rules. They changed the rules. In addition, this is not last year's playoffs. This is a new type of playoffs.
It doesn't matter. Then you adjust. But this is the thing. Even in his post game, that's why I do have issues with him. I guess he was like, "Well, we didn't get to the free throw line like we were in there." You're like, "Bro, I don't know what planet you're from. You're not going to get to the free throw line, even if it was last year's playoffs. You're just not going to get to the free throw line."
I hate guys hunting for fouls.
I do too.
Reeves game.
No, stop. Just stop. Play hard. Try. Anyway, let's leave it there. One last person. This is LeBron will likely sign a 2-year contract, according to Rich Paul. People are saying he's not worth the Supermax. I agree with all that. It doesn't matter. He's going to get the Supermax. He's LeBron James. The Lakers are going to pay him. We saw that after a major Achilles injury, Kobe got a massive extension. I think the highest one they could give him at the time. And that's just how it's going to be. That's what we do. That's why we will always get the aged superstars finishing their careers here. Maybe they got enough in the tank to win a championship like LeBron did. Maybe they won't. That is the core Lakers philosophy at this time, of which there is no debating. I think we all agree this is the place where superstars come to die, for better or worse. You just hope that they're not like so on the way out that they just totally fall off a cliff, and they can get you like one or two more. I'm assuming is the thought process. I just realized my planet behind me is going crazy. Let's turn off the planet. There we go. All right. Anyway, Tom, it was great having let's see. This is where you're wrong, Sean. I see. No. Yeah, he won't get a supermax, Brian. The Lakers won't get his 51. Yeah, I mean he'll get a supermax from the Lakers, I think is what people are saying, Sean. And no, we won't replace his cap space. So I think if he leaves, we only end up with like 12 or 13 mil. I think I did the numbers. Like no matter who leaves, doesn't matter who leaves.
It's a $13 million non-taxpayer trade exception.
That's it. That's all we got. That's all we got at best next season. We don't. There's no world.
They could probably create 20 million or something like that in cap space by giving up certain guys, by denouncing certain players. But you're not going to get enough to bring in another superstar.
You're not going to bring in. No, I think I did the numbers. Like even if we
20 million is the most. 20 million.
Yeah,
is the most that you could.
20 million if everybody walks. LeBron, D'Lo.
I mean, you say you just denounce all of those players that you got cap hold on.
Right, and we all know LeBron isn't going anywhere, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's like Pelinka.
No, yeah, it's
LeBron's here, Pelinka's here.
Let's let Sean and everybody in defense. It's difficult. The new cap rules are a little bit difficult to wrap your head around. The two aprons, I think, are what's a little confusing to people these days. Tom and I went. Last year around this time, we went real deep into it. Or no, that's not. I guess a few months. It was about 9 months ago. We went into it real deep. I don't remember what date it was. Otherwise, I'd say go back and watch that show because I think we actually did a pretty good job of talking about it. Once you hit that first apron, you don't actually have cap space. It's really just the space between which you are.
You get trade exceptions, certain trade exceptions that you can.
Right. You don't get your draft pick exposure. You can add more money into trades. You get trade exceptions. Once you pass the second apron, all of those go away. You cannot trade your picks. I think people thought, and I think I even thought this for a short time, that when they say like your pick is frozen, it doesn't mean that. It just means you don't get to trade it. You're picking where you're picking. It doesn't mean it's like
you actually can go down. You actually can be at the end of the draft.
And you can get and depending on but you can't move out. You can't move around. You can't use.
You can't take back more money than you send out. I mean, it's just it really puts serious limits on you.
Yeah, no,
but there's probably 3 or 4 teams that are going to go past the second. I mean, the Clippers will.
Clippers,
Warriors are already there.
Knicks, maybe if they depending on who.
The Knicks, if they want to keep this team together, they're going to do that,
and they will.
And
they should.
And
the Lakers maybe.
The Lakers are never going to go over the second.
No, they're never going. We know that.
They won't go over that. That's a hard. The rest of the league, it'll be a hard cap.
Yeah,
that'll be their hard cap. 190 million.
But we can't, as you know, Sean. So yeah. Here we go. This is the perfect list. Clippers, Celtics, Wolves, Warriors, and Suns all will be over the second apron for sure. And I think that's right.
Yeah.
Unless somebody trades somebody into somebody else's cap space simply to get contract relief, which you can do. You can, if a team has enough cap space to simply absorb your player, you don't need to bring anything back.
No, like Eric Pincus just recommended that the Lakers. It was Trevor Lane recommended that the Lakers to get rid of Gabe Vincent's contract. They would give some team that had cap space. They would give them a trade swap, a pick swap.
I think that's not how the Lakers can function right now. They can't.
It's crazy
because you don't get.
No, you got to find a deal that involves picks and then make sure that Gabe Vincent is part of the fodder.
And I'm pretty sure you still get back a trade exception, which counts against the cap. Like it doesn't mean the money just frees up. It means you just get money to play with. That still counts.
Well, you can let the trade exception expire and you save $12 million.
But it's a year away. It doesn't. You can't decline the exception, right? Like it just sits there.
No, but what it could do is get you under the first apron and keep you where you get a $13 million player without having to give up.
But not for a year. Not for a year. So like this is how I understand it to work. Let's say we did that. Let's say we trade Gabe Vincent, and then I really have to stop. Let's say we trade Gabe Vincent to San Antonio. San Antonio has like 20 million in cap space. They simply take him, and for their troubles, we tip them a first round pick swap in this year's draft. Let's just make it simple, right? Let's say New Orleans isn't taking our pick this year. They can take this year or next year's. Let's say New Orleans graciously allows us to swap our first round pick this year. Says, oh, we'll get it from you next year.
And then we get an $18 million trade exception.
Then we get an $18 million trade. Now that sits there until we use it.
Right.
It has a year shelf life.
And it expires after a year.
And it expires after a year. So you can't like use it except to bring a player back. Now you could say, all right, I'm going to trade Reeves and the trade exception for a $24 million player. But all the rules that apply to being over the cap, or
you can't combine a trade exception and a player. So
it's even a worse idea. So nothing about that makes sense.
You can only use it for a player.
You could basically trade it. You're basically saying like, oh, I think there's going to be somebody else worth $11 million that's coming on the market, and I'll pay that guy $11 million instead. Right. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. If
somebody, well, you have to find somebody who wants to give away a salary to get the same situation you did.
Well, that's why you sweeten it. That's why you throw in the sweetener. That's why you throw in the sweetener.
Right.
All right, Tom, we will get way more into the cap and trades as soon as the season is over.
Yeah. Next weekend, we probably will talk about the JJ Redick hiring, man.
No, we won't.
Thought I froze you with that one.
No. I was pausing for dramatic effect. No, we won't. They're not going to. It's too
dramatic effect. Huh?
It's too.
You got to do 30 seconds when you do that, man.
I waited too long. Okay, that's fine.
No, too little time.
I thought I gave a solid 3. Anyway, it's all good. Lovely talking to you, Tom. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat and the entire Laker Fast Break family. Thank you specifically to Joe Glassford for putting up with all our shenanigans. Joe Soro, Sean Grice, Nick Molina. I'm going to forget somebody I know. I always forget 2 or 3 people. Stone Hansen. All you guys are awesome. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, Empire Jeff TV. All you guys are awesome. Thank you everyone for the chat. And that's right, Sean. That's right. Thank you, Sean. That's right. Help these guys and Joe out by finding the like and subscribing button if you haven't. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple Music or podcasts.com, or the guy who you buy podcasts out the back of a van from. However you do it, just give us a 5-star review. And everybody have a lovely Memorial Day weekend. For those of you who have ever served our country, thank you for your service. And especially those who were pressed into duty during the draft when you didn't have a choice.
And fly the right flag this holiday.
Oh boy, let's not pull a Sam Alito. Anybody, let's not pull a Sam Alito. And that's as political as I'm going to get. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.